So I can confirm that last episode of Portside Pier was like playing an awkward game of Buckaroo and Tetris. You have to kind of get everything together, make it all fit and balance it onto a pier. That's a challenge of its own. And then you let in the guests and all hell breaks loose. Hello you guys, welcome back to Planet Coaster 2, welcome back to Portside Pier. Thank you as always for coming along for the ride. I think this is probably going to be the final build episode of this series. And I mean, given that it was only supposed to be a series showing off the new pathing tools in Update 5, we've had Update 6 come in and yeah, I think we've strung this out enough. Don't forget, by the way, if you want to submit a building, you still can. Like, the invite has always been there. I'm not going to put them in for this episode, so it'll be in for the next one. So yeah, if you want buildings in the city, please do let us know. So anyway, this is what we have been building over the last couple of weeks, and I really like how this has turned out. Planet Coaster 2 can actually really do a pier. I mean, Planet Coaster 1 was able to. We did it with Shorehaven, but yeah, I dig it, right? I'm absolutely digging it. So, we've got some stuff that we need to do. We've got a few gaps that we need to fill. You kind of already know what I'm thinking with this one, but let's actually get this, let's get this done. So, I'm thinking we definitely need the chair swing in, and I'm thinking that probably needs to be somewhere like here. I did originally envision it being here, but the pad on this is actually small enough for me to put into this kind of space. And I did spend some time on Brighton Pier this weekend, and yeah, there are some points where it's actually quite tight on the pier, you know, so I'm kind of going with that. I do want to put the Corrales back in as well, and I think the Corrales in that spot is actually probably a little bit too wide, right? The pad is just too big, and I don't know why the pad on this ride is so damn big. In fact, I don't know why the pads on any of the flat rides are big, but we've always said that, right? That's always been a complaint of ours. But anyway, it sits quite nicely there, so I think that's where it's gonna sit. I mean, if it fits, it sits, right? So I'm thinking that is where we're going to go. Now, for the back end here, you kind of already know where I'm thinking. These are the rides that I do want to kind of put into this space. I'm going to start here with the Pathos 3 because this kind of sits really nicely in this kind of space here, right? And because I can hide the pad, we don't actually need to worry about the fact that the pad goes into the maintenance area. That's kind of where I want this, where I want that to be, and it's kind of like a nice little space there. Okay, so next off, we need something that dangles over the edge of the pier. Of course we do. So I think the Behemoth swing is still the right option for that. A little bit like how Brighton Pier had booster, Blackpool Pier has got whatever swing it is. It happens all the time, right? And I'm thinking it does need to be in the corner there, so I am gonna stick with that thought process, and it's going to be able to swing out there. And because it rotates as it's swinging around, that's actually perfect. It's as close to the booster as we're going to get, right? So I'm happy with that. So next up, I don't really know where we're going to go next. So I think I'm going to go for the Monte Leone, because that gives me a little bit of a backing, right? If you have a look at the actual ride itself, it's higher at the back. So it kind of gives me the ability to be able to have a sightline thing here. And I think that probably needs to go roughly there so that I can then make the pads the same colour. This can be a maintenance bit, so I'm going to be able to fence this off, and this is still going to be a ride. I've still got queuable area here. Happy days. I'm happy with that. Then finally, I've got space for one more ride. Now, I have got multiple ones that I can choose from, actually. So we've got the Hyperspin, we've got the Ferris wheel, and we've also got the Synchronize here. I think the Synchronize, I'd love to put it in, but I think it's more of a permanent fixture, isn't it? It's more into the ground kind of thing. The Hyperspin is a little bit too similar to the Monte Leone. So I'm thinking the Ferris wheel. Actually, could I put both in? Thinking about it, could I put the Hyperspin in that gap? So if I put the Ferris wheel here, like that, would the Hyperspin then go in that space? I don't know. I don't know. Would it go in any other space? I'll tell you what, I am going to dip off camera. That's where I'm thinking everything else needs to be, right? I'm going to dip off camera and see whether I can just rejig the stuff, and then we'll talk about the rest. I'll see you in a minute. Oh, that took a shameful amount of time to actually pull together. So many different combinations, so many different trial and errors, and I think I've got a final ride line up. There's something I'm not sure about that I'll talk about in a moment, but this is feeling about right. The Pier is balanced in terms of weight, it's balanced in terms of attractions, and it's, I think, going to work in terms of how Planet Coaster 2 does AI and guests. Now, we're going to throw 5, 6, 7,000 guests at this eventually, and it's going to perform like trash anyway. But when a Pier has only got 1,000 people on, and it's like this, well, I think this is 600 at the moment, it's fine, right? It's absolutely fine. And again, Brighton Pier is exactly the same. But I'm going to start down here because I really, really wanted the 360 power on the Pier to the point where I had it over here. I found a way of moving stuff around where the Monte Leone was elsewhere, and then realised it clashed with this, like really, really badly. So it's not going to go there, and it can't go there. And there was no other place to put it. But I don't like that there, and I don't like that I haven't got trampolines. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to bin off the 360 power. If it's not hanging over the water, there's no real point having it, I don't think. Not when it's really similar to the Pathos 360 and the Behemoth Swing. So I think this space needs to be trampolines. But I'm going to play it out and see what happens. But these two scudge together quite nicely. There's, as you can see, there's gap along here. And I think there's just enough space if I keep this here. Just enough space for guests to get off of this. So, yeah, another reason why I think I want that to be trampolines. But anyway, this works way better than I thought it was going to. There's quite a bit more space here, actually, when you get down to, like, this sort of level. The game is going to cope with this fairly well. So, I think I'm alright with that. I think I'm okay. So over here, this is where I've actually done quite a bit of like the configuring, and it's pretty much as I left it, right? But this is like maybe the 12th, 13th, maybe 14th different configuration that I settled on. As I said, a shameful amount of time was spent on it. So the Pathos 3, it's not moved, right? But I've just put the queue in, and I think I can make this bit make sense by scudging this over a little bit. So if I just take out the paths and move this over like that, I can make that area like make it a little bit more, make more sense, right? So if I move this down there, that's the rough new position. And I'm not going for the fact that these would be permanent installations, because they wouldn't be. They would be sheds and stuff that you could probably quite easily move around. So we've then got the Ferris wheel here, and I am okay with this not having a queue. I mean, I could put a queue in here and have a smaller gap here, but actually I'm alright with the fact that guests are going to congregate in this area. I don't think there's going to be that many. I'm going to need to open the floodgates and see what happens to know whether it needs a queue. But if I put a queue in here, all that's going to happen is they're actually going to congregate here instead of make the problem worse. So, you know, leave it as it is. Monte Leone, it's got a queue, so there it is. It's got a queue like there. I'm going to need to put a gate and stuff in for this, so this is all going to need to make some sort of sense. Temporary fences and stuff would be in here, so I'm happy with that. I think I want to try using what I call it's called Harris fencing, right? But it's actually a barrier in Planet Coaster. You know this one? I want to try using that as the queue. The problem is, because it's got that where it stops guests, it gets a little temperamental. But this is the type of fence that you would find on this kind of ride, right? So I think, yeah, I'm gonna try. I don't know. I'm gonna try my hand and see whether I can make that work. If not, I might try and make my own version and see what we come up with. So the Behemoth Swing, I'm happy with the location of that. This is where the queue line is going to go. What I now have, though, is an awkward area here and a bit of an awkward area here. I don't know what's going to go in there yet. A shop makes sense here. You know, the other one that I've got. So if I'm wanting to use, I think it's this one. And let me just copy that. So that would go fairly nicely there. In that sort of space, right? So that would work. It doesn't conflict there, so that kind of makes sense. But I don't know what I'm going to do with this little space here. You definitely don't want guests to go down there. Maybe this could be an extended bit of a queue. I don't know. Let's see what happens. But the hyper spin, that's now in a good little location. And because we can redo the pads and stuff, I kind of took inspiration from what I did over here with the zipper, where the pad actually comes all the way back here and it's hidden underneath the coaster. So I'm going to do the same with the hyperspin. It doesn't conflict with the actual coaster itself. I've actually got a little bit more space than perhaps I need here. I could bring this right up against the fence, especially if I need space here, but I'm going to bring the queue line around this way so that guests have to come down here and then congregate here if they're wanting to queue, rather than doing it the other way where the entrance is here and they have to congregate here. So, I mean, that just absolutely makes sense. So in terms of the rest of the area, like I say, I'm going to need a maintenance-y bit type here. And I'm going to need some kind of a gate for this bit. And I need to put some like clutter and stuff around. So I'm going to go back to Brighton and I'm going to look at some pictures of Clacton and stuff and just see how they're going to clutter up that area. But ultimately, other than the 360 power, I like it. I like it. So I'm going to go off and get some more stuff done. I'll see you in a minute. So, story time. Shortly after recording the last bit, I hit a bit of creator's block. I didn't really know what to do. So, I slept on it. I went to Brighton Pier. I sat and watched the pier go by. And then it struck me. I had an epiphany. As you can see, the 360 power has gone. But then I was like, well, what do I put in that space? What fits? What is going to go there? And then Brighton, behind the Dodgems, have just put in this really crappy go-karts for kids. And I was like, oh, I could do with something like that, you know. Now, of course, the go-karts in-game are just too big. So, this came to mind. The small train. I can hide the platform and all sorts by sinking it ever so slightly down. As you can see, it's clipping and whatever. I've done that deliberately. And it's actually you can't really see it. Well, yeah, you can. There you go. It's an actual building, right? It's the building that I've used elsewhere to hide all of the holes that are created in the pathway. So it actually fits quite nicely. And I was like, well, actually, this is kind of like the attraction that they would have. Now, I wish we could resize this dude, but actually this is the type of thing that a pier of this stature would probably have. Some kind of plaster Paris or fake, whatever, I don't know, cheap material pulled together, some kind of dragon, just to make it look decent, right? I'm thinking Fantasy Island. This is the kind of thing that Fantasy Island would do. But the train just goes round it, doesn't really do much, and the kids would love it. And of course, when you colour everything properly, I think it's this one. Yeah, there you go. So the actual whole thing is then hidden quite nicely. See, it now sits on a pier. Happy days. Let me just do the queue line as well, because otherwise that's gonna bug me. There you go. Queue line is also done. So there you go. It's sitting on a pier. Happy days, and I'm alright with that. So that's what I put in that space. Then came the Ferris wheel. I was thinking about how it would stand up in the wind, how it would be sat there, how it would even serve a purpose at the end of the pier. Like, the idea would being it's supposed to be for views and stuff, and it just wasn't going to work in that space. Then I let the guests in. It definitely wasn't going to work in that space. So, trampolines won, and this is what I came up with, and I love it. It's actually how a trampoline should be. It's really nicely and simply put together. It's the art shape, right? It's the oval cylinder art shape. It's the resort wall decoration, and it's the coaster supports and a fence, right? That's literally all it is. Oh, and the manta thing from the coaster trains, you know, the flying coaster trains, now that we can use those as separate things, right? But it works, absolutely full-on works as a trampoline. It needs a little bit of like kitting out and stuff. It needs a couple of signs and things like that, but I'm happy with it. It's right. It's the correct size. It's the correct dimensions. It does what it needs to do. I'm a happy chacho about this one. So there you go. We'll keep that as it is, I think. Pathos 3 gets quite a queue, as you can tell. So I don't know whether I need to bring the queue down and back again as a temporary queue. I found a way to make it work over here, but it just it's temperamental. It gets the ump very, very, very quickly. But again, if we go back to the whole idea of the pathing, this is actually going to hide quite nicely, I think. So go that one. Where's my... There you go. See? Hides it quite nicely. And now it looks like there's a temporary queue there with the Harris fence. So I quite like that. I think that's going to work. It also works down here as well when we start putting in the idea of just being the wood and taking away the railings and stuff. It's going to work. That's going to be the maintenance area. And then, of course, this is just going to need kitting out and cluttering out with some stuff. I've put in an extra garage door here. Actually, that just needs to be lowered slightly. There we go. I've put the extra garage door there, so you've got the access and it's all go. But yeah, this pathostry, I think I'm going to be able to use that technique down here, but I need to do something creative with the queue, I think, because I can't have it cattle penned close like this because it really does throw a strop. So I don't really know what my strategy for it is. I could do something like this. Hang on, where's my... There we go. Let me get the colour queue. There we go. So yeah, I could bring it out this way, and I could bring it down this way. And then the natural thing to do, right, is to snap it so that it's there. But I know that the whole game system is going to strop if I put this here. This is the problem. People are now not going to queue for it, and you can see them, right, like stressing out. So I need to find a way of making that work, basically, so it looks like they've extended the queue down this way beyond what would normally happen of a day, right? So that's kind of what I need to do. Oh, do you know what? That is kind of working. They're queuing, so I'll take that away, and I will get that fixed. Anyway, back to the other stuff. So here, I've got myself a couple of the food units. I've decided to make them food units rather than games units. We needed some kind of services and whatever down this end. Don't want to do any more toilets. We've got enough toilets on the pier. It's all good. Brighton's only got the one set of toilets, ladies and gents. So yeah, I'm happy to keep it that way. So I've used Viva La Vegan and Pipshot juices on this one. It kind of feels like that would be a veggie style, vegan-y style unit. And then over here I have done the traditional milkshakes and ice cream. So just need to put some kit in here and make that all make sense, and then it should be good to go. So the behemoth swing is sitting nicely there. I've decided to keep this area back here clear. Brighton has this area as well, round by the Helter Skelter and behind Air Race. There's just this awkward dead space. They can't really do anything with it. They wouldn't want to do anything with it, so just keep it as it is. Might put a couple of benches down there maybe for anybody that did venture down, but it's all good. And then the hyperspin, cheap and nasty fencing, and that's all I want it to be. I don't like the colours actually, but I think I'm going to keep it as it is because it just fits. I need to do something here with the queue line. I don't know whether I'm going to use Harris fencing again or whether I'm going to actually make it a proper queue. I need to see how the area feels really when I start to like decorate it and make it all make sense. And then down this side, the Corollas, talking of things making sense. Like I despair. I really do about these pads, and I need to let it go. It's because it's sitting rent free in my head, and there's nothing I can do about it. It's beyond my sphere of influence and sphere of control. But you can see how small this pad needs to be, because I put a fence in. Anyway, what I'm trying to say here is I wanted to have this kind of making some kind of sense as to why the entrance and exits are so far away from the original fences. So I've put some extra Harris fencing in here, almost as if to say, hey, we need to put this extra bit of whatever, this extra bit of space in here for whatever reason. I don't know what the reason would be. Some kind of health and safety maybe, or something, buffer zone. And I needed to make it make sense, and that's kind of what I've chosen to do. It's all right. It does what it needs to do. and I'm working with the pads, so we're just gonna go with that. And then for the chair swing, I've actually used not temporary, but like cheap fencing here. I didn't want to use the full wooden effect fencing. I actually wanted to do something cheap down in this space. So in fact, I've done the same for the Crowless as well. There you go, the Crowless there, and it kind of needs to feel like these rides have just been plonked there. And maybe the whole pier is going through a bit of a branding thing where they're putting these fences and stuff up, and they're making them consistent, and maybe they haven't gotten to these bits yet. Again, Brighton's a little bit like that. I don't know what it's called, the jump, no, next door to Airways, whatever it is anyway. Oh, Galaxia. Anyway, that's got a temporary fence at the moment, so I'm kind of going for that kind of vibe, and that especially this bit here where you don't really know what to do with it. So yeah, that's the vibe that I'm going for there. So anyway, there you go. That's where we're at the midway point. I need to go and get this done, and I will see you in a minute. Well, it took far longer to just plop down a couple of flat rides and call it done, but I'm ready to call it done. And I'm going to say done for now because the town's not done, and that's the reason why I'm going to sound a little bit pensive about finishing this episode. And that's because I need your share codes, please, guys. Your buildings are welcome to be in the town. The original file, by the way, is already on the workshop, so if you want to download it and make something fit into a space, then you can do. That's the space that we're working with. I'm kind of reserving this for a potential future water park, maybe. We do a mini series or whatever, but for now the pier itself is done, and I love how this has turned out. It feels like Brighton Pier, and I'm here for it, right? I think the only thing that's really missing is some kind of big building on the pier, and I'm happy with that, actually. Like, I like that we've put our inverted commas big building underneath the log flume, so it's left a lot of other space for more rides and stuff, and I'm happy with that. So let's start down here, because I think this is probably a good place to start. Do you remember when I said I didn't really know what this was going to be and why this was like this? Well, I've kind of made it, I've tried to make it make sense. I've added in what would potentially be the original queue line along here, and perhaps we're saying there's some kind of new health and safety legislation that's kicked in that means there now needs to be this wider distance between guests and the fences, and that's why the Harris fencing is up. I've actually taken away the fence that was here, and it was this one here, right? And I've actually put in the Harris fencing down here to give it that temporary look. Now I know that it's working, and guests are happy to have this working. I think I actually quite like this as a look. It's a bit of a vibe. So maybe the ride's even on its way out. Maybe it's one of those rides that's earmarked for removal, and yeah, it wouldn't be there. It wouldn't be there for much longer. So I'm happy with that, and we are happy to call that done. Then down here, I've just put in some like clutter type stuff, you know, like the trees are in, a couple of bins and benches. This is all this needed. This is a thoroughfare, and these guys, I don't know what they're doing. You do you, right? You just have a staff meeting or a party or whatever. I've got no idea what's going on down there. Leave them to it. Sure. So anyway, I've just done some cluttering up and stuff, and just some tidying up of some bits. You know, some umbrellas were missing. I decided to actually put umbrellas here in the end. I didn't want to. I said that in the last episode, but I've actually decided to change my mind and put them in. I don't know. The umbrellas are all the same colour throughout. It felt like there should be some kind of branding, but now I'm seeing it. I think I'm regretting the decision. It looks a little bit spammy, doesn't it? It looks like I've spammed umbrellas around. Maybe I'll change it. Maybe I won't. Whatever. This was supposed to be a mini-series where we were just playing with the new pathing methods anyway, and the new pathing tools. So we've done more than we wanted to here to start with. So down here, max power is now in, and I've just put a couple of bits of like ride signs and stuff. I wanted to give this a bit more of a travelling ride kind of vibe without going too in depth, because this is a pretty chunky ride, right? So it's fine as it is in Planko 2, and it sits quite nicely in this little space here. So this Harris fencing extended queue line, as you can see, is working. The guests are perfectly happy with that. I'm not going to argue with them about it. So I've made that make sense. And then I have just put some bunting in around here, and I have also just put some strip lighting, fairy lighting along this side. I didn't want to put it along the front here because it just didn't feel right. I've just noticed I've got a gap, so apologies. I'm just gonna do some live editing. I think that needs to be 102 and then moved across. It's because just before starting recording I tidied this bit up and I forgot to resize that. There we go. So bunting is now in. Trampolines are done. I was gonna put all of the signs and stuff along the bottom here, but I've ended up cluttering it out with stuff. You know, more Harris fencing, a couple of vending machines, and a couple of plants and whatever. So the actual sign didn't make sense. I put it on the front instead. There you go. Trampolines, 5 tokens, and then this is the entrance and exit. Now I did copy the fence here from the Wild Mouse coaster, so I kept it green. I was going to recolor it. I kind of like that it's mismatched. It's just got this little bit of jank to it. It's definitely needed to be blue, red, and yellow because that's the whole primary color thing, right? And that's just typically what these trampolines are, but it just feels like this is such a tacked on bit. Maybe originally it was stairs, now it's a ramp. I don't know what the story behind it is, but I like the fact that it's green and it makes absolutely no sense. So we'll be okay. We'll be okay with that. A little bit of stuff around here then. We'll talk about the waltzes in a second, but you'll see that there's lots of lighting and stuff that's been put up. I kind of did a nighttime pass of the park, and it needed it, right? It was a very, very, very dark area, but now you can see it's got quite a bit of lighting going on. So it's all bright white lighting as well. It's proper flood lighting. It's not even like a package of beautiful lighting. It is what it is. But so that's what I've done. I've put all of these around in, especially for the right area. So these waltzes. Let's talk about this. I wasn't going to do a cover. And then I was going to do a cover, and then I wasn't going to do a cover, and then I decided to look on the workshop for it, so for one, to see whether someone could do one better. And the short answer is, hang on, what's waltzer? Oh, hang on, no, it's under flat rides. That'll be why, Chacho. It's under flat rides. Waltzer. So yeah, the short answer is someone has done better than me, and I'm not too proud to go on and use that. So if you're wanting to have it, there you go. There it is. There is the share code for it. It's this one here. It is by Kinetic. Awesome creation, and it fits in just nicely into the space that I wanted to put in here. So yeah, a bit of recoloring and whatever, and now it actually fits exactly as I wanted to in that space, and it feels right. So I'm happy with that. That's the thing, right? It's got to feel right. It doesn't necessarily have to look right. It does have to feel right. I kind of regret not turning the waltz around, but I'm kind of going with this being a vibe, right? This perhaps was an area that was slightly more open, and then the waltzer would have been like the star of this area. So you would have congregated here, and then over time we've put rides in, and the waltzer were never repositioned because you just wouldn't. So that's what I'm going for anyway. Then we've got here Power Tower. Is the name of the behemoth swing, or the behemoth swing. Love how this is. Look at it. Like, it's if you know Brighton and you know Booster, this is exactly what Booster used to do. This is like the equivalent of Booster, and I am so here for that. I've just put in some really cheap and nasty signage. Maybe this is sponsored, that's why we've got the gulpy cans up. Something a little bit grotesque going on, and I like it. Gets quite a queue actually, and I've then just decided to Harris fence this off. So I could put the extended queue in if I needed to, but I kind of figured that actually you wouldn't want your guests to come down here. There's quite a bit of industrial space here. You've got the back end of the ride, you've got the not maintenance area, so you've got the roller coaster area, the back of the waltzers and stuff. You probably wouldn't want guests to go down there, so it's all good. Then we come to the Monte Leone, and again I've just tidied this up. I put some of the extra lighting in with some extra fairy lighting. The Harris fencing, I think, was already in. No, it couldn't have been because we were talking about it over here. So I put the Harris fencing in anyway, a couple of ticket booths, and then the So Delightful and the Gelato Bros shop is now there. Did I change it? No, it's actually a direct carbon copy. Cool. Okay, that's fine. I'm happy with that. Then inside here, I've just done a little bit of touching up. I put some of the kitchen kit and whatever in here. I'll tell you what I've done. I've actually moved it rather than copied it, so I'll need to go and do that. It's fine. And then the maintenance area, proper cluttered. Again, if you ever visit Brighton Pier, you will see their maintenance area is an absolute dumping ground, and it's fascinating to watch because you have a platform that overlooks the log flume, and you look at the log flume one side, but it also overlooks into their maintenance area, and it is a proper dumping ground. It's fascinating. I love it. Backstage nerds would, yeah, you'd have more fun there. And I like how I've made this teeter and stuff. This is exactly what it's like. It's almost like they're playing Buckaroo in their backstage area because they just don't have much space. So everything is stacked on everything. I bet they don't even know where anything is. If they try and find a ride part, I bet they're going to have to like go scouting through like it's a dirty bedroom or something. So, yeah, it's fun times. So there you go, guys. There's the pier from the top. Love it. This has been a great, fun little series to do. I didn't envision it being so long, but this has been a fun little series. It's seen 2 updates, 2 big updates as well. So I reckon we need to do a tour next week, and then we'll get on to a bigger, better park. I don't know what it's going to be yet. So as always, thank you for getting to the end of the episode. I really do appreciate it. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe, do all the usual stuff. I will see you next week. Have yourselves a good week. Take care.